And I think gaslighting came from an old movie, right?
There's 2 different movies. Alfred Hitchcock has one, yeah.
Yeah, where, I don't know, I can't remember, is it that the
woman would set the gas lamps.
would go out and turn them on, turn all
Knew
the gas
they were
lanterns on, knew they were on.
And he would begin to, I use the dimmer switch in my office with clients, or if we did it here, it'd ruin the video shoot, but if you begin to dim the lights, so it's like not always, sometimes that gaslighting more of a dimmer, otherwise you just go click and turn the light off. She knew, and people do that today. Honey, did I leave the porch light on? We always do every night. I know I did. She knew she turned it on. The guy came behind her and said, you didn't turn those lights on. So the gas lamps or the gas lights, that is the gaslighting. He knew exactly that he was manipulating her, and she began to go, maybe I didn't. And then the crazy game's on.
And what is he hoping to do in turning those lanterns off and her saying, I know I turned them on, but they're off. So did I turn them on?
Get her dysregulated, again, what I call emotional or relational vertigo, because if you start spinning, if I'm an addict, and Jim Kress is a recovering addict, so I can relate to it, if I see you spinning and maybe crazy, you're going to dial back, possibly saying, well, I saw this sign or I saw something else. You're going to begin to back away and not hold me accountable because you're going to think you crazy up in there and not that I'm crazy.
Okay.
Very functional.
So good. And it doesn't just happen with addicts. It can happen with anyone who is trying to kind of get you off the scent of whatever it is.
Little kids do it. They don't know the term gaslighting, but they know the truth. You're looking right at them with chocolate all over their mouth. And little Jack, my grandson, we've got a video of it. And Laura and my daughter-in-law was like, who got into the cookies? And then they go down the line, my 3 grandsons, and gets to Jack, and he says, not me. I mean, it's just loaded with chocolate. So he knows completely well. So this often is why I say, had you read that verse, this is very young developmentally. Why it's important to grow up and put away childish things. Very true.
So what do we do about it? So if we're in a situation where we are either being love bombed or there's gaslighting happening, like, are there some strategies? Are there some practices? Like, what do we need to do if we're caught in a situation where this is happening?
Well, again, I'm going to go back to mental health. I've added spiritual health from Scott Peck. The author, mental health is a commitment to reality at all costs. I am convinced that people tune off the last part of the verse of that statement, and that is at all cost. So I want to get unilaterally, if you want a practical thing, I want you, and I know for a fact you did this with my buddy, with Joel, others, you did this with me, and that is you get your safe people, even if it's 1 or 2, and say, yeah, I trust you. This is what's going on. Do you think I'm crazy? Mirror back. What do you? So often that works with a safe person at times, like a therapist, to come in. And I said to you, one of the things you've said about my work with you, which has been just the joy of a lifetime. And I thought, wow, I mean, I've tried to really work hard for you. And that's what you say. The best thing Jim ever did to help me was to say, I believe you.
I believe you.
And now I'm being a little facetious, but I went, no, I've realized that is the core, because in gaslighting, emotional dysregulation, I'll question myself. So when someone says, look, my hub, I hear you, I understand you, and B, I believe you. That's the starting point. Who in your life do you have 2 or 3 good friends who you can go in? Therapy helps at times because it's confidential. And you say, I want to tell you what's going on, and let another wise person say, you did it with this guy especially. And I had the privilege of being there too, to go, no, this is what we hear. Right?
Can you gaslight yourself?
The research would say no, because notice, and here's why, because early in therapy and theology, I used that term and I realized it was wrong. You get to change, because gaslighting has to have the issue that I know the truth, and like you know the truth. So let's say I know the truth, but I'm here to overtly deceive myself. What you can do is be in denial. This is the second one that is very prominent, I think way more than denial, is rationalization. That's in the therapy field, that I will rationalize of, well, maybe I'm dysregulated, maybe he's right, but I don't have the intention in true gaslighting to lie to myself knowing I'm lying and deceive myself. That make sense?
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. And I think the reason it was so important when we would do our sessions and you would say, I believe you.
Yeah.
Is because sometimes the narrative around a situation that happened his narrative would be so vastly different than my narrative. And then I was like, wow, maybe I am making too big of a deal. Maybe it really wasn't as I remembered it. And so it was so helpful and so regulating for me to come in. And certainly you were listening to places where maybe I was taking the narrative
Sure.
in
Yeah.
a wrong direction, because I'm not saying that my narrative was always right. But what I am saying is the consistency. You've said this before, Lysa. This is pretty consistent with that, and this is consistent with that. Like, Lysa, I believe you. Even if you don't get every detail right, I believe that what you are upset about, you should legitimately be upset about. And that just helped me so much. It helped me
God.
stop doubting that, that I was really the one at fault with everything.
To go back to the triangle, you say, oh, that's another program. We know, but the victim triangle, at that moment, and you know this well, and so does Joel, I was not rescuing you. I was simply with you and holding up a mirror to say, and we know that James tells us God's word is the mirror, and I was holding it up and saying, here's what I see. And we built trust and safety versus me just being someone cutting your hair at the grocery store to say, okay, I'm gonna show you back, remind you. We know that God's word does that. Remember, Zakar in Hebrew, remember. And it's like, I was saying, hey, this is what I've witnessed. We all need a fair witness to our stories, our lives. And so I had a chance to witness and go, I see it, I believe it.
And so I do love that you often remind people, don't go at this alone.
It's terrible.
Don't try to work out everything on your own. You don't need to tell everyone, but find a few safe people to gather around and give them permission. Tell me what you see. Like, when I present this situation, help me see what I possibly can't see on my own.
Which can be our, I call it the personal board of directors. Hey, I don't care if you only have 2 seats at it. Try to get 4 seats, but these are trusted people who've earned the right to sit at your table. So develop a personal board of directors and say, you know me, we have some history. You've seen my ups, my downs, my highs, my lows. What do you hear me struggling with?
And what we're really after is truth. Like,
Amen.
with love bombing, like, it's so hard to discern what is true, what is not true. With gaslighting, it's so hard to discern what is true, what is not true.
Right.
But once we have people that we trust and love and that have our best interest in mind, both to say the hard things and the good things, but once we start establishing what the truth is a great starting point to then start to make progress toward healing, or start to make progress toward help, start to make progress in a positive direction. And that's what we want. We just don't want to stay in this dysfunctional dance that eventually creates so much emotional exhaustion that it starts to lead to spiritual confusion about everything in our life.
Yeah, I think that there's a part of me that just wonders, it's like, okay, what do we do with this? There's a part of me that just wonders, did Moses experience a lot of gaslighting from the people of Israel? Like, I just think about, like, how many times the Israelites come to Moses throughout the Exodus period, and they're just like, why'd you bring us out here to die? We had meat and fish and food and all kinds of great stuff, and Moses is like, wait a minute. Like, weren't y'all like heavy labor slaves? Like, I don't know about you, but like, and Moses might have been
extremely unfair conditions.
Yeah, and I'm like, I don't know about y'all. Maybe I did because I grew up in the royal house, but like, you guys, I don't think so, And so there's even the sense there. It's like, well, how does Moses respond to that? And I think he gives us in the book of Deuteronomy the most important thing that we ought to do, for sure, in the context of the biblical narrative and the biblical story, but I think it's a principle that we can apply to this conversation of gaslighting and love bombing. But it's called the Shema of Deuteronomy 6, and in verse 4, Moses says, "Listen, Israel, the Lord our God, the Lord is one. Love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your strength." So it's like the whole of the human body. These words that I'm giving you today are to be in your heart, right? Wow. Yeah. So this is where they reside. They reside in your heart. Now we know the Hebrew word shuv, it has in mind both the wellspring of emotion and intellectual volition. So today we think of heart as this place of like affection and emotional reality. But for the Israelites, they're thinking about this both and, not either or. It's like the heart and mind, it resides there. And it says this: repeat these things to your children. When I am retelling a story, two things are happening. One is I'm remembering that story because I have to recall it.
Yeah.
Second, as I say it, I'm actually reenacting that story, you know? So there's this like multiplicity to this. Repeat them to your children. Talk about them when you sit in your house, when you walk along the road, when you lie down, and when you get up. And I love this language. Bind them as a sign on your hand and let them be a symbol on your forehead. Write them on the doorposts of your house and on your city gate. And I just wonder what would happen if we take the same principle that we should be doing in terms of the story of God and his love for us, and then we go back to these moments of gaslighting and love bombing and go, wait, you know what? I need to have some people in my life that I can rehearse the truth with.
So good.
So good.
Right? Like I gotta just like, hey guys, I'm gonna tell the truth. I'm gonna say the truth as I understand it. Now you keep me accountable to this. Is this actually true? Is this an accurate retelling of that story? And if so, now we're held with the responsibility to do with the truth as it demands of our lives, right? And so if we don't make a change, then we're held accountable for that. But it starts with rehearsing the truth and communicating it and remembering it.
And I love that, Joel, because we've said before, and you've said it already on this series, is reality is crucial.
Yes.
And so mental health is a commitment to what is real, what is reality.